Hi, good afternoon. I am Christian Caceres and my partner Eitan Arakanchi. We're going to present our hypothesis definition based on the class of data science and statistical inference. First, for this document, we have the main index, which is divided in the aim and contribution of this study, the explanation and description of the data variables, which we will define an explanation of each of the variables, the type of variables and its meaning, and also the relationship between them. Then we'll see the explanation of the data origin and the problem definition. Later, we will define the main decisions and the scientific hypothesis. And finally, we will define the statistical hypothesis plan. So first of all, we have the aim and contribution that we will make with this study. So in this case, we will choose the data set based on the social lag in Mexico, so that we will have chosen an index per municipality based on the population on each municipality and the amount of percentage of the population of each municipality as well, considering the access to basic cultural benefits such as education, health, and living facilities and conditions. The main goal of choosing this dataset is to study more disadvantaged municipalities by analyzing their social lag with respect to health, education, and living conditions. In this case, we will take 11 states that are located in the center of the country, which are similar in certain conditions based on the way of living, their culture, weather conditions, and also the mobility between them. For the final goal, to analyze this data, we will have to detect some key elements which will help us to identify which ones are the main ones that reduce the inequalities on how people can access cultural resources here in Mexico. In order that this data analysis will contribute a strategic location proposal for future cultural centers and houses in the regions mentioned, in order to decrease the inequality on the possibilities for the populations to access those cultural venues. So this will result in an increment on the cultural participation, as well that will create a better social welfare. Finally, having mentioned that, this data analysis will help us to identify the municipalities that have the worst conditions for its inhabitants and identify the main reasons that causes them.
Okay, so for the second part of this first proposal, we will explain which are the variables from the data and what is their purpose. So this data set comes from Coneval, which is the Consejo Nacional de Evaluación de Política de Desarrollo Social, and it's about the social lag index in Mexico municipalities. which this index is calculated with basic information regarding health, education, and basic living conditions. So this index is like a resume of the social lag in each municipality, and in the same database comes the information regarding these conditions and categories already mentioned. Each category and each attribute will be presented in 4 different years, in 2000, 2005, 2010, and 2015, which allow us to observe the evolution over time, and also to be possible to draw some conclusion regarding how the social lag has increased over time or decreased, or how it has changed. So in total in Mexico, we have 2,457 municipalities, but for practical reasons, for analyzing the data, we try to reduce it to over 1,000 data. So we choose to work with 11 states in Mexico, which are 11 states in the central part of Mexico, and with more or less similar conditions regarding culture and way of life. Also, there are some difference, but still we try to choose the states with more similarities. So these 11 states corresponds to 900 municipalities, which is a good size for the data set. And the first data set was had this structure with the information about each state, each municipality, the total population, and then the attributes we already mentioned regarding health, education, and living conditions. And at the end, it's the social lag index with the national place occupied by each municipality. So all the attributes of the datasets are the following. First, the key code of the state, which is just a number to select the state, the name of the state, a key code of the municipality, the name of the municipality, and the total population. And then these three first attributes are regarding education, which is illiterate 15 years and over population, which it's like a good way to measure how much people is literate. The population between young population aged 6 to 14 years old, which cannot attend school, population older than 15 years old with incomplete education, and also the population that do not have access to basic health services. And the other 5 attributes are regarding basic living condition, like access to drainage, electricity, if they have a washing machine or refrigerator in their house, a toilet. And finally, the social lag index is presented, and the degree of social lag is like a categorical value attributed to the index, and which place is occupied by the municipality in the overall quantity of municipalities in Mexico. So, as I already mentioned, this data is presented for 4 different years. And in order to work with the name of the variables later in R, we changed the name of the variables to these ones. And we made like a small dictionary to explain which is the corresponding concept of each abbreviation. So the final CCV with the data clean, the name of the categories transformed was like this. So we can see that we have no headers. We have only the name of the variables as the header, which will later be saved as a CCV file and then imported to the required software. And then all the information with its corresponding type of variable. So the type of variables we will be working for are mainly numeric variables, but we also have string variables, which are the name of the state, the municipality, and the degree of social lag. And the other variables are integers for the key code, and mainly numerical variables like mainly float variables, which will describe the percentage of population that do not have access to health, education, and basic living conditions. So this is like a table which presents the type of data of each variable, and in order to be able to work properly in the following parts of the project. So the relationship between the variables, we can mainly separate them in 4 categories. The first one needs to identify the state and the municipality, which consists of the key code of the state, the name of the state, the key code of the municipality, and the name of the municipality. Then the variables regarding the total population of each municipality, which will be presented in the 4 years. Then variables representing the social lag index, the components of the social lag index, which is the social lag index number, the degree, and the place occupied in the national context of this municipality. And finally, all the other variables, which are the components of the social lag index, and are the variables representing the percentage of population without access to basic health, education, and good living condition. So as we already mentioned, they will be presented for 4 time periods or years. And the way to relate all this data is with each population of each municipality will have some characteristics regarding health, education, and living conditions, and each will be presented in different time periods. So this will allow us to propose some scientific hypotheses and main proposition for evaluate this data regarding mainly population, year, and the social lag, and finally how the social lag is composed. Okay, so the third part of this first proposal is about saying where the data came from. So as we already mentioned, this data came from the Coneval, which is a public entity from Mexico, and the main goal of this organization is to generate useful information about social policy situation and poverty measurement, in order to give this information to the government or to any organization which is willing to propose any policy, any project, or anything that can make the conditions a little bit better. So this database comes from a study regarding the social lag around the municipalities up to 2015. And this measured in the years 2000, 2005, 2010, and 2015 for each municipality in Mexico. So the main goal of analyzing the social lag is to create an index which has as components some variables about education, household services and activities, and health access, which can resume this concept of social lag and be able to identify with only one index the place of each municipality without having to analyze each category separately. So the source of the information is from the results from the principal locality survey and the intercensal survey, which is made every year. And so in order to make this index, the components analysis is made by reducing the total number of variables, which are the variables we already mentioned regarding health, education, and basic household conditions, into one specific index by giving some specific ponderation or pound to each variable regarding what we want to measure with this index. So what we want to calculate or observe in this database, or by analyzing this database, is the social lag in each municipality and how each category is affecting this index, and how this information can be useful for proposing better policies and better projects in order to try to solve this project. So the main decisions or the scientific hypotheses we will propose for the project, which are the main three ideas or main three axes of what we want to demonstrate by analyzing this data, are the following, which will be presented by Christian.
So this will lead us to the main decisions and scientific hypotheses. The main decisions are based on which are going to be our main scientific objectives that we are going to analyze in this data, which seeks a way to prove something that is not evident or has not been proven yet. For the first scientific hypothesis, we are going to compare if the social lag is or not related between the population and the municipality variation. Then for the second scientific hypothesis, we are going to compare if the social lag is or not increasing or changing over a certain period of time. And finally, for the third scientific hypothesis, we are going to compare if the education possibilities is or not related with poor housing conditions in the population.
So for the fifth part of this this delivery, we will propose a statistical hypothesis plan to try to prove the main hypotheses which were stated by Christian. So for each main decision, we will propose two statistical hypotheses which will try to prove this main hypothesis by rejecting both null hypotheses, or the idea is to try to prove that the null hypothesis is rejected both times to be able to have a solid background or solid way to prove that that the main hypothesis is correct. So for the main hypothesis one, what we want to try to prove is first that the coefficient of determination, the R squared, of the total population compared to the social lag index, if we make a regression of how the total population of each municipality affects the social lag index, if there is a determination of 0.7, and if it's lower than 0.7, we cannot reject the null hypothesis, and if it's over 0.7, we can reject it. And as a second statistical hypothesis, we want to prove that the F coefficient of this same relation between the total population and the social lag index, if the null hypothesis is correct, we will have that the F value of this relation is bigger than the F value that we can calculate with the variability of the data. For the main hypothesis 2, we will try to prove that the expected value of the social lag index of the year 2015 is bigger than the one in 2000, and that each 5 years the expected value of the social lag index is increasing. So if we cannot prove it, then in this case the social lag index in will be bigger than in 2015, and in the contrary, in the expected value of the social lag index will be less in 2000 than in 2015. And the second statistical hypothesis is to prove that the beta 1 coefficient making the regression of the data of the expected value of the social lag index over time is lower than 0 or equal to 0. So if we can prove that making a regression between these two parameters over time, if the coefficient beta 1 is 0, it means that there is no linear regression, linear relation between these parameters. So if the beta 1 is bigger than 0, we can then prove that that there is a relation between these parameters. And finally, to prove the main hypothesis 3, we want to prove that the coefficient of determination of the making a regression between the education of 15 years and over population which is illiterate, how is related with the variation in all the parameters regarding housing conditions, like homes with dirt floor, home with no toilet, home with no drainage, no electricity, and how if this coefficient of determination is big enough, we can then prove that that the education parameters, which in this case is the illiterate population over 15 years old, can be related directly to how the people is able to live. And in the final second hypothesis for this main hypothesis 3, we want to also prove with the coefficient of determination, but in this case, for the population that do not have access to school. So it's more or less the same thing, but in this case, we are comparing the illiterate population, or how the illiterate population varies regarding some basic living condition, and in this case, for the people that do not have access to school. So this objective to demonstrate this is to check on how the living conditions can affect people in terms of education conditions, which is like a circle, because if people do not have access to education, still they will not be allowed to fulfill the basic living conditions. So this is the main proposal for the hypothesis for the project, and what is the data, what is it made from, what we want to prove in this project. So thank you very much, and we expect your comments, and that's it.
Thank you.